Good evening. Try that.
Try that one.
Thanks. Good evening. Before I begin the presentation, for those people that have attended the prior town council meetings and also prior school committee meetings, the budget worksheets that were on the table up there are the most recent, and if you have some of the older ones, please check the date. We are working on the March 10th, 2011 warrant articles and budget worksheets. So just FYI, if you have an older one, please check the date. It should be down in the bottom left hand in the corner. This evening, what we are presenting is a tentative budget, and I'll explain why it's still tentative. There are a number of things that need to happen over the next few months before we are able to finalize our budget, and I'll explain those throughout this presentation. One of the things, if any of you have any questions after this evening, please feel free to contact me at the central office, and we'll do our best to get that information to you. The overview for this year's budget, the proposed tentative budget includes an actual budget decrease of $122,042 from last year. And one of the things that we have mentioned in all of our presentations so far this year have been the difference between what a flat budget is and what a 0% on the local taxes budget is. And this year, we actually have a decrease from our overall budget last year. However, because we have an additional reduction in state subsidy, we are still not quite at 0% on the local taxes. Our total budget, including adult education, is a little over $13,937,000. The amount that needs to be raised locally, and I just updated this, this will include adult education as well, is $5,455,469. Although our overall budget has decreased, we are receiving about $197,269 less in state subsidy, which currently leaves us around $168,298 away from having a 0% increase on local taxes. It is the goal of the school committees to prepare and present to you a budget before a referendum that does not increase local taxes, and based on our current projections, we feel very confident that we will be able to do that over the next few months. Earlier today, I had a content meeting, and I was looking through the notes from last year's budget presentations, and a lot of the information that we're still waiting for, we had already received last year, including our insurance percentage will increase for insurance, and there's some other information that we had available at this time last year. So unfortunately, we're still waiting. The biggest item that we're waiting for is the state budget to be passed so that we can move forward with this budget. The budget priorities, prepare a budget, as I mentioned before, that maintains our existing programs and services with a 0% increase in taxes, and that's the local contribution. Consolidate resources with the town and area school systems, if possible. And also continue to address the NEASC concerns. And this year we are in the process, or for next year, we're in the process of upgrading the heating system at the middle school, installing new boilers at the middle school, and converting both systems over to natural gas from oil. And we feel there will be energy savings for next year's budget. We also have short and long-term building renovations that we continue to look at. We have a facilities committee that makes recommendations to the school committee, and we continue to look at our creative plan so that we can move forward with different building renovations and improvements. As most of you are aware, we were 27th on the list of the latest building applications for a renovation project at the high school. We also would like to obviously maintain our existing programs and services with the amount of cuts that we had last year. We were able to maintain all of our programs and services in some manner, shape, or form. It wasn't ideal, but at least we were able to keep those programs and services, or offer those programs and services in some manner. One of the things that we have really focused on as a committee is to decrease the amount that the system is above the essential programs and services. If you remember, anything that the state has a funding formula, they send us a form, and ED 279 is what you've heard me refer to it, has all of our financial information prepared or listed on that. And one of the essential programs and services, any of your programs and services that you're above the amount set in this formula, the town would have to raise locally. And over the last couple of years, we've been able to make a lot of, really look at that closely and make reductions. And this year, we actually decreased the amount of money that we were over EPS by an additional $211,886, or $211,886. However, it's still not enough to get our budget to 0% on the local tax rate. In your warrant articles, in the forms that we handed out this evening, you will notice that there should be 3 areas that will show up as increases, and I'll try to explain them. In adult education, there's about $11,390 increase. A lot of that is due to the decrease in state subsidy. We did, as a school committee, we do have a 5-year maintenance plan, or 5-year plan for facilities and grounds, and one of the things that we did add is we did add $10,000 into this budget for classroom maintenance plan, which is, it comes to about $5,000 per school to upgrade classroom equipment, desks, tables, etc. The other item that you'll notice that there will be a big increase in, but it's a transfer from one line to another, is under purchase services. We needed to move $52,607 from debt service into purchase services, and that's money that we had that was expiring from bus lease bonds and bus leases, and what we did is we transferred that into purchase services so that we would have money to help purchase the boilers, the boiler and the new heat and to convert both schools, high school and middle school, over to natural gas. So that will show as an increase in one line, and you won't see it as much of a decrease in the debt service line, because we have last year, or we have the new bond, or the bond that we voted on last year in that line, but it will show as an increase under purchase services. One of the things that has assisted us this year with this budget is we received a grant from the federal government, the federal jobs bill. You may have read or heard about it. In this budget, $157,503 of our $157,503 is being supplied or provided through this grant. Now, that money is not actually in our budget. It's actually, because it's a grant, it has to be pulled out. And so one of the things that we, as a committee, we'll need to determine is that money, or any positions or programs that are part of that money that we pulled out of our budget would need to be considered, or a decision would need to be made if those positions, programs and services will be added back into the budget in 2012-2013. Under the 10-year local contribution history, you will see that there was a trend. Local contribution had earlier in 2003 through 2004 gone up, and then started to decrease all the way into 2008, and then there was an increase in 2009, a decrease in 2010, and then last year, as you know, we had to ask for an additional over $250,000 to keep all of the programs and services that we have in place. Now, this year, we did put tentatively for 2012, the local contribution, or the total budget is an increase. However, we are hoping that through the next couple of months, we will be able to present a budget that will be flat and be the same amount that we budgeted or had to raise locally last year. In local contribution compared to last year, the state's subsidy that we received last year was $8,216,245. That was a decrease of over $663,000 in state subsidy for last year. One of the other items, the transition amount, and I explained this last year, what that is because the state does not fulfill the legal requirement of funding 55% of education, the community is asked or required to raise the additional money, and last year it was $283,000 or over $283,000. The local contribution, as a result of all the cuts, we did have to ask for an additional amount of money locally, which was $262,598. This year, the difference is we again have a decrease in the state subsidy. It's around $197,268. The transition amount did increase by about $6,000, and we currently are at $168,298 away from having a 0% impact on the local taxes. Now, I have mentioned the difference in $168,000, the difference to get to 0% in local taxes. And I also mentioned that we were very confident that we should be able to get to 0% over the next few months. We were waiting for a few things to fall into place. The biggest item that we really need on the school side is for the proposed state budget to be passed. Now, there's a lot of concern whether or not that's going to happen. If that doesn't happen, then the actual subsidy would be decreased again, and it would be potentially another $180,000 decrease in state subsidy for on the school side. Another item that could be savings for us is that we did comply with the consolidation law and became the Lisbon School Department, which is actually a donut hole, is the term that they use because we were a system that was created to be on its own. There was a consolidation penalty that was supposed to be enforced for schools that did not comply with the state law. However, there's a lot of legislation. If you look at some of the new legislation, and some of that legislation is saying is trying to, or it has been proposed so that those penalties are not forced onto the school systems that did not comply with the consolidation. Last year, we originally had received some of that money, and it was a little over I think it was around $37,000. So there is potential for that savings because they were supposed to postpone those penalties for 1 year. However, it doesn't look like that's going to end up happening. We have been very fortunate over the last few years. We've been able to really negotiate with any of our contracted service providers, and there's been savings there. So we would hope through negotiations, and all of our contracted service providers have usually 1 year agreements, and we negotiate with them over the summer. We're hoping that there are savings in those areas as well. I've already spoke a little bit about the converting the middle school and high school over to natural gas. The projections, there's projections for energy savings, and one of the pieces will be to upgrade the lights at the middle school, and so there's energy savings at the middle school and high school that can be reduced from next year's budget. We currently have our insurance budgeted at 10%. For every percentage, if the insurance comes in less than 10%, then every percentage that's less than 10% is around $20,000 savings on next year's budget. However, a lot of systems have budgeted 8-9%, and we still haven't heard any official word on where that's going to be for an increase or a decrease. One of the areas we have traditionally tried to keep our kindergarten classes, the enrollment, very low. We have 6 positions in our budget for kindergarten. However, based on current enrollment as of today, there are 72 students already enrolled, which is pretty close to what we had anticipated, which is roughly right around 100 students. And we still have, they just had a parent meeting. They also have screening in May. So those numbers, it looks like there's not going to be any savings there because we'll have the same amount of children in kindergarten. We have had a number of retirements and resignations over the last few months. One of the things we've done is we've looked closely at those positions, and for the most part, we may or may not fill a number of those positions and just spread out the responsibilities throughout staff, and so there are potential savings or additional savings in retirements and resignations that will assist our budget for next year as well. We have recently we did a transfer into the facilities line to help pay for some of the bigger items that we had originally proposed for next year's budget. So anything that we can purchase this year that was proposed or would have been an increase in next year's budget, we're going to work hard over the next few months to see what money we may have available to help offset that. One of the things that we had spent one of the things we had done throughout the winter is we were really nervous about the middle school boiler. We really thought that we were hoping that it would make it, and it did make it through the winter, but we were also prepared to have to pay for emergency services and install a boiler this winter. So by being conservative, we do have some money in the facilities and other lines to help offset, again, items that we may have budgeted for next year. Transportation seems to be the one area that we've found significant savings over the last couple of years, and we are looking at restructuring some of our services that we provide and our transportation costs. We will look closely at that, and we continue and feel that this next year's budget does reflect a significant amount of savings or an additional amount of savings in transportation. We still feel that there's some more. There's potentially more savings in transportation, and we'll do the best we can to save money there. So with all of these pieces in place, we still feel pretty confident. This is why we feel confident, or I feel confident, that we will be able to get to a 0% on the local taxes before referendum or before the town council is asked to approve our budget. One of the things that I mentioned last year and I'll talk about again is the school improvement, achievement and progress list. One of the things we've had meetings with, I've spoke with high school staff, is one of the things that we have concerns is that the state has gone, if you've heard the race to the top, the state went for a race to the top application that was not approved. However, the state has also applied for Title I money for high schools, and one of the things, this achievement list, which came out last year right around this time, identified the 10 lowest achieving or lower achieving schools in the state. One of the things that it's critical is that you have to maintain progress. They take a 3-year average of your performance or combined score or average in both math and reading. And one of the things that we were looking at the high school is this year's, we were concerned because over the last 3 years, the high school did have a decrease in their performance or progress. And so I met with the staff last week, and we'll continue to move forward and maintain progress so that our high school or any of our schools are not listed on, are not identified and listed as one of the low achieving schools in the state. We did have much larger progress percentage-wise last year, but you also have to remember that over the course of 3 years, when you start at a low average and you make those big gains, your numbers are fairly high, but both the community school and middle school did continue to show progress over the last 3 years. And again, I'm just making sure that I'm presenting it to the community and also to the high school staff and school committee that our high school did not make progress, did not show a positive growth or progress over the last 3 years. Last year we were at 7.64% growth. This year it dropped to negative 3.56. So it is something that we need to watch, we need to stay focused on, and we've had those conversations with staff and I wanted to present that to you as an update and also just something to be aware of for the future. The potential impact on taxes this year, obviously our goal is to have a 0% increase on taxes. And as a result of the budget that we are preparing. In summary, we addressed some very difficult budget decisions last year. Understanding the economic situation in Lisbon, we are preparing a budget that we feel still allows us to provide an adequate education to our students. Last year, we were forced to ask the Lisbon taxpayers for an additional amount of $262,598, even after making over $1.1 million in reductions. It's been our goal this year to keep the tax rate flat, and we are close to reaching that goal. And hopefully we'll have any information that we have that's updated, we'll be sure to present to you and the town council. But also, this presentation is available. All of our budget information is available online for those. I'm not sure if we had enough copies, but if we didn't, it is available online. We'll be updating it. Just remember that March 10th is the current date that we have on our on the budget sheets that we are working with, and when we update that, I'll be sure to make that announcement. That is that's the school budget presentation as of today. Open it up to questions for us.
We'll do our side first. And then
Oh, yeah.
questions,
Okay. Yep. Did you want to use the space bar? Right click on the mouse. Yeah, left click and then right click. Yep. Yep.
We're going to give you a shorter version of what we presented to the council for the town side budget. Again, the council's goals and our goals were to provide the same level of service that we have been providing and do it and bring the tax rate in flat and hopefully move forward with some of the projects and things that we had initially hoped for. One of the things we did this year, we did a survey. It was online, and also Councilor Bickford did a lot of knocking on doors, and we got just under 400 responses, and asking the citizens what they, how they would rate their services, what they felt were the most important. And the three top numbers or departments with the fire department, police department, and school department. This was able to give the council a view of what the citizens thought they rated highest. Okay. It's not working. Oop. Okay. What we presented initially when we presented to the council was our recommendation of $6,338,696. This does not include the county budget, which was $574,198. Well, okay. What this included was a 1.75% wage increase to all employees. Also included insurance increases, health and personal property and liability. Also included a matching funds for the 196 paving. We come up with $50,000. The state's going to provide us with $500,000, and they'll pay from Memorial Drive all the way through Lisbon Center and to connect to just before the Sabattis River Bridge. It included a full-time communications position. We had a position that got emptied throughout the year. This current year, we filled it with a part-time person, but coming into the new year, the union requires us to have a full-time person on that position. We see in doing such, some of the reductions we have, we saw a reduction in temporary wages and overtime. We'd like to add a part-time person in the tax department, so we cover people when they're on vacations or out. We removed the paving, which we had planned to put back in this year. Just part of it was due to the increase in the oil costs, in gas, which drove the paving or asphalt costs very high, and we thought this would be a good time maybe to not move forward on that, and hopefully it will come down next year. It also included some department consolidation. We have some people retiring, and we're moving some people around to try to work more efficiently and not have to fill several positions. It included, this was initially a loss of 6 full-time people and 2 part-time people. That will change. The council has been going through and reviewing all of the department budgets, and through that process, we are looking at possibly making some changes that will still include a flat tax rate and less people losing positions. It also included a reduction in the fire department capital reserve request. And it also included some capital improvement projects that we feel are very important to move forward, and also a reevaluation over the next 3 to 4 years, and that's still in discussion with the council on how we're going to handle that. And interest only, if we were to do a bond, it would, this year, coming year, it'd be interest only. We wouldn't have to pay principal until the following fiscal year. The bond initiative that we're proposing, in taking out the revaluation, is replacing the roof on the MTM building. We have been looking at that for the last 3 years, and it continues to leak this year. It leaked even worse, and we continue to put money into the roof trying to patch it. We patch it, and it continues to leak. The MTM board is supporting this. They think it's time that we did that and put it behind us. Also, we had started replacing the windows, and we had some money that we got from a energy or efficiency grant, $85,000. We did work to the Public Works garage, replaced an old boiler. We also insulated the interior walls, and we started to replace the windows in the MTM center until we didn't have any money left. This also includes some work on the E.T. Smith Fire Station in Lisbon. This is a project that's been on the books since I've been here, and it's got to a point where we really need to do some electrical work and replace the siding before the building rots. And Public Works, we received notification from the MDOT through their inspections on some of the bridge that Fisher Road Bridge needs to be replaced. If this does not get funded, then we'll probably end up closing the access to that bridge because it's not safe. And also the Public Works garage, once again, we're putting this out to the public so we can come into compliance with ADA and fulfill that obligation. The total bond without the reval would be $500,000. The first year would be $9,200 interest only, and the following years it would stay at $68,000. And this way, over a 10-year period, this completes some of the major projects that you've had on the table, and hopefully put us on a program for preventative maintenance and be able to keep our buildings. A few years back, we did a bond, and these are the roads that we worked on. Ferry Road was one of those roads. We have not spent the remainder of that funding. We held off once we found out we had to do the bridge, so that didn't get done last year. But these roads were totally rebuilt and repaved, and they're still holding up very nicely. Spending trends, again, we showed spending trends of the town and over the last, since 2001 up to this year. They stayed pretty steady, and you can see in the school end it went up and it started to come back down as we got into these economic times. At this point, I'm going to hand it over to the finance director, Jessica Malloy, and she'll walk you through some of the other financial aspects of it.
On this slide here, you see the Lisbon mill rate for the last 10 years. From 2002 to 2006, you can see we maintained at 25.25. for a mill rate, and we went down in 2007 and 8 with an increase in 2009 and 10 back to 25.50, and last year the mill rate dropped to 21. In comparison, the bottom half of this slide, you can see the current mill rates of the surrounding municipalities. The first 6 are municipalities that are at 100% valuation. You can see that their mill rates range from $11 up to $19, and the remaining 3 communities, including Lisbon, who are only valued between 62% and 80%, have a much higher mill rate of $25.40 down to our current mill rate of $21. Okay, I'm not hitting the right button. What do I hit?
The left leg.
Left. Oh. I'm sorry. Why is it not working? You'll click it for me.
No, just
Oh, okay, sorry. So with the current budget, the total taxes to be raised to support our recommended budget of $6,912,894, which includes county. This is the breakout of that budget. 19.8% of the money to be raised from taxes pays for assessments and debt service, which, unlike operations of the town, cannot be amended or cut. The Public Works, Public Safety, and General Government make up 77.7% of the budget. As you can see, those are the biggest pieces of the pie. There we go. With those areas, this is the budget trends over the last 3 years. You can see General Government has gone up from 2009 at 28.8% up to 30.5%. Public Works has decreased from 27.9 to 25.7, and Police has gone from 17% down to 16%, with the Public Services and Fires maintaining fairly flat. Of General Government, you can see 46% relates to insurance costs. At 27.6% are wages. Contracted services come in at 18.4%, and the smallest amount is professional development at 1.03%. Within this department, or within this area of general government, the total is only 30.5% of our total budget. The total budget for general government is an increase of $66,165, or 3.3%. This actually includes a wage decrease of $54,500. Contracted services increased $115,000, primarily due to a reappropriation of building costs from all the other departments into town buildings. As well as we will be contracting out technology services and assessing services. This budget, portion of the budget also includes an insurance decrease of $28,000. Oh no. I'm not going to be able to read. This department also includes some staffing changes. I'm not going to be able to read it. Within this department, we'd be looking at a reduction of 3 full-time staff. That relates to positions that have left that we haven't filled, as well as the loss of an additional staff. Public Works makes up 25.7% of our budget. This includes solid waste, winter public works, hydrant rentals, streetlights, and the town engineer budget. You can see from the pie chart that 32.8% relates to wages, 18.4% relates to contracted services, supplies make up 14.9%, and our hydrant rental fees make up 16.6%. Those are the biggest hitters within the Public Works Department. This includes a total budget decrease of $84,064, or 4.5%. That's made up of a wage decrease of $69,000, contracted service decrease of $26,000, primarily due to the transferring of the building expenses to town buildings. We have a supplies decrease of $12,000 and an equipment increase of $42,000, primarily due to the paving of Route 196 with the matching funds. This also includes staff changes. Within this department, we'll see a reduction of 2 full-time positions and 1 part-time position. Public Works is where we're looking at some consolidation measures. This includes solid waste, winter public works, sewer, and town engineer. We are looking, this is the new structure we are looking at. We will have a public works director slash engineer who, the 3 people that will report to him will be the Public Works Operations Manager, Solid Waste Operation Manager, and the Sanitary District Operations Manager, with the laborers, drivers, mechanics reporting to the Operations Managers. Public safety makes up 21.4% of our budget. This includes police, animal control, communications, and fire. You can see the largest portion of their budget is wages at 77.5%. From there, drastically drops to equipment at 7.5%, and the other areas are all under 5%. This is a total budget decrease of $44,570, or 2.9%. This includes a wage decrease of $33,000. Contracted service decrease of $7,000, and professional development decrease of $6,000. This also encompasses staffing changes. We will see the reduction of 1 full-time position and the addition of 1 dispatcher, which is a shift from the part-time to full-time. In summary, the municipal budget breakdown, 52.5% of our budget is due to wages and benefits. 11.7% is made up of contracted services. County tax makes up 8.3%. Debt services make up 7.4%. Supplies are 6.3%. Our equipment is 4.9%. Our hydrant rental is 4.2%. Repairs and maintenance are 2%. All other expenses total 0.44%. And professional development itself comes in at 0.53%. So in summary, our budget reflects a wage and benefits decrease of $174,231, or 4.5%. This is a net decrease in positions of 6.5 people. We had health insurance decrease of 2%. There's an initial increase in insurance costs offset by the participation changes due to the change in staffing levels. This also reflects a life insurance decrease of 30%. This is just an adjustment based on our historic expenditures, and an unemployment increase of 30%. Our rate adjustment went from 0.89% to 0.96% on an approximate 94 employee count. Our equipment capital increased $65,000, or 23.7%. This is primarily due to the Route 196 matching funds for paving. And contracted services increased $82,000, or 11.3%, primarily due to assessing and technology services being contracted. Our debt services increased $20,000, or 4.1%. This is due primarily to an increase to allow for the principal portion of the bond that was approved last year. And it includes an interest savings offset by the inclusion of the potential 2011 bond that's being recommended. Some unknown scenarios or alternatives that could come into play with this budget. We could look for consolidation with the water department. If we did that, we'd be looking at savings in excess of $115,000. We could look further consolidation of public works with the parks department. There could be a potential increase to allow for the rising cost of fuel. If LePage's budget proposal gets turned down, we can see an estimated increase in revenue sharing to $1.6 million. And on the table, there's also LD 79, an act to base the excise tax on vehicles at 90% of the MSRP. This would mean an estimated reduction in revenues of $100,000 for the town. And that's it.
What we're facing is very much like the school. There's some unknowns out of state government. We were all sitting back waiting to see if Mr. LePage's or Governor LePage's budget passes. We have it budgeted on the revenue side for the worst-case scenario, which would be $830,000 in revenue versus the 1.16.
All right, Mr. Green, you want to go ahead and take some questions and comments from the public on the school side now? Are you guys prepared for that? All right, I'll hand this over to you. Microphone today?
Right up front.
Right up front.
My name is Ken Wells. This question is actually for the town and the school department. I would just like to know if you have a contingency plan if the state revenues fall short than what you predicted.
On the school side, our goal is to come in at 0% on the local taxes. So if our revenue does decrease, then we would have to look at the possibility of reduction or elimination of programs and services to get to that 0%.
Still gonna hold it to zero.
I believe
Intention.
that's our intent, and I believe that's what I've been directed to do. Correct.
Can I get the school side, switch over to the town side?
The town side has budgeted on the revenue side for the worst-case scenario. We've used the low number that they're giving us if LePage's budget passes. So we, if things change, and I don't expect them to go less, I expect it to stay with what they've predicted. I can't predict what Mr. LePage's budget will do. If the school loses funding, and I'm sure that we'll sit back together and figure out how we're going to make it come in flat. That's the goal, and hopefully we can attain that. That's our expectation.
Back over to the school thing.
Can I just talk right from here? I don't-
We need the mic, please, Fred, because it's on camera.
My name is Teresa Collier, and I have several concerns about this, not so much the school budget, but I'm concerned that you said adequate education. I have a freshman, child that's going to be starting as a freshman, and I want more than an adequate education for him. I want excellent education, and I'm just really concerned about that, and what you said about, trying to remember what you said, the proficiency level, I'm just, was not prepared to hear that. And I'm also concerned about whether the high school is going to be accredited or not.
I can answer the second. We say adequate, but obviously we are, the Lisbon School Department staff, everyone is working hard to provide an excellent education. One of the things that we did have to do is we did have to change a lot of our programs and share staff in order to keep those programs in place. We feel that, although it's not ideal, we're working hard to maintain and move forward, and I do commend all of our staff for accepting those responsibilities. As for NEASC and the accreditation, the only thing that we haven't been able to address is the gymnasium, the facilities on the report, and there's really, unless we're going to build a new gymnasium, which is something that we have talked about very, when we're talking about renovating the high school, but we will keep our accreditation. There's no indicators that we would lose our accreditation with all the work that we've completed at the high school, addressing the facilities in the manner that we have. I'm very confident that there's no risk or we have no reason to believe we would lose our accreditation at this point.
Why has proficiency decreased? Did I understand you correctly?
It was the three-year average, correct. If you have, for instance, you take, when you look at those percentages, if you had, I believe one of the 2 years ago, the test scores came back and they were at 40-something% proficient. Last year, they were a little over 30%, and then the year before that, they were at 36-38%. If you have 1 year where your test scores come back and they're lower, that will throw off your average, and that's kind of what happened this year, is we had a decrease. Instead of going above 40%, we went down to 33%, and really averaged it over 3 years. That's why we, overall, the high school had a decrease of negative 3-point-something%. I'm sorry? That's what we're looking at. We're looking at instruction, K through 12. We're looking at, as you'll hear in the news you'll hear that the state has just adopted the Common Core standards, and a lot of the work that we're doing is moving towards the Common Core, integrating the curriculum that we need to do to be prepared for a new testing system, which will be coming out in 2014. Do I have an answer why? I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, when you compare classes, I don't want to get in the position where I'm saying that this is a bad test class or whatever, but it does make a big difference when you have a group of students who test lower than the other two.
I guess I'm concerned because I feel that my son this year, and especially in English and literature, they have not required, to me, they don't have any required reading levels for him. And he's in middle school right now in 8th grade, and I'm just wondering if this is going to carry forward into high school. And I want him prepared for college, and I'm really concerned about that. And then when I heard you say that the proficiency level has decreased, it did not do anything to ease my mind.
To try to ease your mind, just remember that those proficiency scores were taken with three completely different classes. So if you look at if you look at the proficiency scores at the middle school, students are, right now at the middle school, are at or above state average, including the 8th grade, which I believe has one of the highest scores of all the system.
Well, again, I'd like to commend you, the school department, on the information they passed out. I wish the town would have gave us out this numbers instead of the nice pie charts and everything else, so we could compare exactly what was happening. I see on the page that the numbers are good through 31st of March.
Through
What's this?
The 10th.
the 10th.
Okay, well, this says March 1st to March 31st on my sheet.
Okay, it was
Right here.
correct. Yep, but it was printed on the 10th. So that's the actual, when we do our monthly reports or whatever, correct. I understand what you're saying, but it's just,
My question is, though, when we have the meeting on the 3rd of May, can you give us the exact numbers you estimate you're going to expend for this whole school year at that time? I mean, the real numbers up to date, and then the projected numbers for that, so we can see exactly how much you're going to expend for that period of time, for the whole fiscal year.
yeah, we're hoping to have our actual budget put in place so that the town council can act on it and approve or make recommendations to it.
For what you're going to spend for next school year, is it what you have expended?
Oh, for this school, yes, okay, yes,
Budget with these numbers, it
Yep.
would make it a lot easier to
okay.
do the whole.
So have what we've expended so far in 2010, 2011, so you can compare what we've,
Right, like what you've done here, and then what
Yep.
you projected that you're going to end the year with.
okay, yes, yep, Yeah, we were just, we printed off quite a few of these, and we tried to keep, I didn't want to, I know in the past, we've had multiple copies running around, and it makes it very confusing for people, but we can get that information, we'll just update it. Hopefully, we will have our budget completed by then, and we'll have all that information for you.
I'm just more curious on what you have expelled for this school year.
Yep.
You said that you're still working, the council's still working on the positions being eliminated?
Yes, the council has been through all the departments and asked questions. They are now moving into the part of the budget where they will make recommendations. They've had one meeting where they've all looked at some of the recommendations that we have made, and some have made other recommendations, but we've only had one meeting on that. This hearing was to kind of get an overview of what the public might think of where we are at this point, but I'm sure there'll be changes. I know there's changes coming from our recommendations, some things have, we reworked some numbers, so I'm hoping by first meeting in May or the second meeting in May, we will be able to finalize everything.
The other question is the transfer station. The huge increase there, is that overly estimating the revenue?
No, what you have, I think what you have is just expenditures. We have retirement in the solid waste department, so that's one of the reasons there's a decrease.
Do we have any further questions on the school side? Anything more? All right. Do we have any questions for the town side?
Larry Fillmore, Lisbon. Out of those 6 permanent positions and 2 part-time positions, how many of them are currently filled?
2 of the part-time positions are full, and currently 3 of the full-time positions are full.
So that's 5 people that you're going to get rid of. Is that correct?
Yes, I guess I wouldn't put it that way, but yes.
Okay, well, you can, you know. On one of your budget meetings, you have budgeted $10,000, an increase in the salary for 6 individuals.
That's not correct.
Could you tell me how many there are?
There are 2 positions that we are making recommendations for $10,000 each, to bring them into a competitive wage scale with their peers. And
And those positions are?
the fire department and recreation department.
Okay. So you're getting rid of 6 and you're giving 2 people increases in pay. Is that correct?
Yes. No, it's not correct. We're not getting rid of 6.
You're getting rid of 5. Okay. On the chart that you had, you're moving the town engineer, giving him responsibility for the solid waste, the transfer station, and public works. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And the 3 individuals who are currently the directors of those departments are going to take a decrease in salary.
One of them is leaving. One of them is getting an increase in salary, and one of them is not. The 3 departments you're talking about, sewer, public works, and solid waste. The sewer department has their own budget, and that has not been presented to the council. It's a separate budget, does not include this one. The other position, solid waste, is retiring. That position is not being filled in the same capacity. and the other position is being changed from salary to hourly wages.
Is his salary going to be the same as he currently is now?
Yes.
So that means, in essence, that you have two people being paid for the same job.
No, it does not.
If he's getting the salary now as a director and you're going to pay him $10,000 more,
I'm not paying the engineer $10,000
not
more.
getting an increase in pay?
Yes, he is.
How much is that?
8%.
Yeah, that's 8% of $69,310.
Yes.
Oh, okay. And we're not decreasing the other guy. So we have two people doing the same job.
They're not doing the same job, Mr. Fillmore.
If he was doing it before, and now you're paying him the same,
He's taking on more responsibilities in other areas.
okay, I guess I don't get this, because now you just made the person who is currently here a wage earner instead of fixed salary, which means he can draw overtime. Okay, is that correct?
Yes, he could.
So he's going to get paid the same salary as he currently has, but now he's eligible for overtime. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Oh, so we don't have any savings there at all. In fact, we've opened the door to increase the cost of operation.
No, we have not. You're losing two people in public works, and some of the responsibilities are going to be shifted. So you're still gaining losses, or you're reducing your budget, you're reducing it in the solid waste because of the change there. You're losing positions, and some of those are going to be picked up by other staff. So you don't have the benefits, you don't have the wages. So yes, you are saving money and improving efficiencies.
You are, but the individual is making more money.
Not necessarily.
Okay, let's talk about savings, cost savings, without reducing the service to the town. We hired an economic development director who had a master's degree. She drew $42,000 for a salary. When she left, the next economic development director, who had an associate's degree in liberal arts, nothing to do with the economic development, and we increased her salary to $60,000. Now, she's gone, and we hired a new one, and he's at $57,000. We need to cut these inflated positions, because if you have an associate's degree in liberal arts and you gain $18,000 in a position, what are we doing? Who does she know? I have no clue how she gets an $18,000 raise, okay, from 42 for the previous director, and she gets a $60,000, and you say, don't worry about your taxes going up because we're doing the best we can. That's not true.
Mr. Fillmore, I'm not going to sit here and argue with you about personnel and about qualifications and how we pay people. There is a marked difference between all the people that you are referencing, and one, the current economic development director is not making $57,000, he's making $55,000, okay? And the other person that you said had a master's degree had absolutely no experience in the field whatsoever. She had never worked in economic development at all, okay? The person that we brought in had a very lengthy job history in economic development and far more experience and knowledge. And we don't always base wages on what their education levels are. It's always based on job experience and other items.
So when we're looking to cut different things, this would not be an area that we should be looking at.
I think it's certainly an area that we are going to be looking at, but I do want to make a comment that I don't think we should be refighting battles from 3 years ago. Our focus right now should be on this budget that we proposed for this year, not what happened several councils ago.
Mark, I understand that, if we looked at the budgets that have been inflated over the years, we could cut the cost of operation for the town without decreasing the service to the public. That was the only reason that I brought that up, because there are more salaries that are inflated that need to be readjusted. And that was the only reason that I threw up the pass, is to give you an example of what was going on.
And I understand that, but I don't believe that we're going to get into trying to cut individual salaries unilaterally. I don't believe that's fair to employees, and I think we've run into huge contractual issues with that legally if we started just going there and say, well, you take a 20% cut off the top because we don't like you anymore. That's not fair, and I'm not going to vote for that.
Okay, that's fine, if that's the way the council's gonna go, but you're trying to save money and cut cost of operations without decreasing your service. I'm giving you an area that you can do it in, because it's been inflated over the years.
And I think certainly when we go to hiring people, we can always try to find people that are willing to work for more than that, but, it's difficult to just decide to cut somebody's salary after they've been working for you for years. It's not really a fair way to do business.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone further have any questions or comments from the public? Anything on the town side?
Ken Wells again. On the May 3rd, are you guys going to hand out more information than just this sheet?
I believe we will, yes, yep.
Because on one of your nice pie charts, it said general government, but what's it cover? You guys, you don't go into detail with this overview. And the other comment I'd like to know is, if we decreased our mill rate from 25 to 21, why did my bill go up? So, it's just a...
Okay, first thing, Ken, is I do want to say that this budget is on the website, and you can go there and get all the information right there.
But,
Is it just that? It should be the much more detailed stuff.
you
Yeah,
should go on,
yeah. If it isn't, we'll make sure to get more details up there.
the general government, it should list what is on that pie chart. Everything that's covered in general government.
And I totally agree with you, and if it isn't up there, I will check it tonight, and we'll make sure to get more information up there before then, and we'll make sure to have more information at May 3rd.
I would love to have more information. As much as you can give, it would be better for everybody.
Oh, definitely, that's certainly my goal.
And my comment about the mill rates is, it goes down, but yet my taxes go up, so.
Oh, yeah, and you understand how it is, that it's based on the valuation of the buildings, and if we raise the value, then the rate goes down, but the total amount that you have to pay goes up because it's a multiplication thing.
We need to specify that.
Okay, we'll do a presentation on that. I think some people didn't understand what happened last year. Any further comments, questions?
My name is Daniel Henton of Lisbon Falls, and I reckon I'm against the raises for the people in the town. I have yet to see Social Security raise anybody's pay for the last how many years? I'm sure the fire chief deserves it, but I'm also sure that everybody in the town has heard this before. If you don't like your job and you're not getting paid enough, you can find a new job where they will pay you. Because what everybody is making in this town, I would gladly give my job up and take over for them. So if this town feels that we need to make a better choice, then the choice will have to be the pie chart where the money that we have decreased our spending on was laying people off or through retirement. I would like to see a better choice than people being laid off or forced to retire.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything they'd like to add?
Hi, Lisa Ward, Lisbon Falls. I just would like to clarify a couple of the decreases in the budget, just so I understand completely. The first two areas that I noticed are insurance and social security, retirement also. Those numbers are being reduced, and that's, this is probably a finance director question, that's because of the changes in how all the staffing is going to go with part-time going full-time, consolidation.
It reflects all the
Okay.
staffing.
Okay. So we haven't done anything to actually reduce insurance or reduce any other costs that way?
Insurance costs actually increased.
Okay.
This is the offset to the staffing changes.
Okay. The second thing I was wondering about, and I think it's related to the public works and related departments being consolidated. But those departments, there's a consolidation of jobs, and then also somebody's retiring. And then the person who's taking on the additional responsibilities is getting a raise to reflect that additional responsibility. Is that correct? Or?
Yes.
Okay. And then the only other raise I saw in there was recreation department, which I'm sure deserves it. The gray area I have two, the finance department and the police department. In the finance department, I saw a decrease of almost 11.5%, and I wonder if you could clarify how that decreased. Is that a personnel change? Or,
Yes, it is.
and is that one of the part-time jobs that's being decreased, or?
It's a full-time position that will be moving to part-time.
Okay. And then in the police department, that's a pretty big difference, and I was just wondering if that's a personnel increase. Are we losing a police officer or somebody else in the police department? It says $51,922 difference.
There's some changes there. What you're looking at there is a change in loss of a personnel position of a person. But again, some of these changes, we'll be coming back to the councils with some recommended changes, and that's one we're contemplating putting back in because of some things that we're working on.
Okay. So I have one more question, if you bear with me just a moment. Okay. So overall, because there's a consolidation of jobs, part-time to full-time, or full-time to part-time, and so forth, how many people are actually, quote-unquote, billed to lose their jobs?
If I was to say what we will be coming back to the council with some recommendations, there's one person who's retiring, and he's not being forced, he chose to do this. Another person, it's a part-time position in Public Works that we're cutting. Another one is a full-time position that we're cutting. So we have all drivers, and one of those positions that we're cutting, we're expecting that person to leave, one of the drivers to leave, so.
Okay, great, thank you.
My name is Dorothy Fitzgerald. I'm a resident of Lisbon Falls. I'm also on the budget committee, so I'm really not supposed to be speaking my own mind, but if anybody knows me, I speak my own mind. First, I'd like to say that I'm pleased to see so many people here. At last Tuesday's town council meeting, I asked the town manager if he was going to get a lot of publicity out about tonight's meeting so that people would be here and hear both presentations, and he said, oh yes. Well, Friday morning's Sun Journal, there was a little small print ad with the, not a regular article.
Dot, what's your budget question?
A couple of things. I do agree with the other gentleman, and Jessica Malloy worked really, really hard and gave a salary and wage survey a few weeks ago, an analysis of salaries and wages using 7 main communities of similar population, service levels, town of Lisbon, Maine. I agree with what she did. She put a lot of work into it, but I don't know what town she used. You know, Cape Elizabeth probably has about the same population as we do, but the wage, the income level of towns, I don't know if she compared the income level, the poverty level with wages that were being paid. And I agree with the other gentleman that spoke up and said that if anyone thinks that they're not being paid enough, then they can leave. Also, the townspeople really need my thoughts kind of straight over this budget presentation for a while. The town manager has mentioned, and we really need a town evaluation. We need it really, really, really bad. He spoke about bonding it for about $320,000, and then he's, I don't know if he brought it up, like I said, my mind was wandering, and now he's thinking about funding it for 3 years. I totally agree. A lot of people won't agree with it, but when the town value goes up, the mill rate goes down. The town needs X amount of money to run it, to pay all of the bills, to have all of the services. And so, like I said, if the valuation goes up, the mill rate should come down. We now have a part-time assessor that is contracted, and I just really feel strongly that we need a full-time assessor. If we're going to go to all of the time and trouble and expense of having a revaluation, that we need a full-time assessor to keep up with the valuation on a year-to-year basis. The revaluation, I feel, should go out to bid. It seems as though there's only one company that is considered for this, but it really, really, really needs to go out to bid. Maybe we can do better than the $320,000. Really needs to go out to bid. I guess that's it. I urge the taxpayers to support a revaluation of the town. We really need it. This past year, with the tax revaluation fiasco, should be enough reason for people to agree to it and to support it.
Thank you, Dot. I agree with everything you just said. All right, anyone further from the public have anything they want to say? All right, well, if that's it, I guess we will call it a night, and we'll see you back here hopefully on May 3rd.